Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching ECLECTICKA. I'm Seven. We have Charles, we have Drew, and we have Geisha V. How you guys doing?
Very well.
Good.
So, let's start it right over there with the controversy, Drew.
The
You have no
controversy?
time to watch these shows. No, we stop.
Oh no, man! You gotta catch up, dude. Get with the programs. Controversy.
No,
Which controversy are you speaking? There's quite a bit actually.
No, actually, there really would be a huge one if you watched the last episode of DC Legends, but we'll talk about that next week because I know you want to chime in.
Yeah, I'm lagging, guys. I'm sorry. I'm missing 2 episodes on that one. There was that's the controversy you're talking about. From what I've heard, this episode took it to a pretty interesting and culturally salient place right now, given with issues in this country and matters of race. The character Jax, who is one half of the hero, oh my God, I did not just forget his name right now. Firestorm. Thank you, Geisha. Jeez, deduct points for that. His character, Jax, he's a black character, of course, as you guys know. Apparently, in this last episode, they went to the 1950s or 60s, which, as any of you who's picked up a history book knows, that was a rather turbulent time when it came to race relations. And Jax deals with that in this episode. People give him heat, and it raises an interesting issue when it comes to sci-fi and time travel when it's dealing to characters of color. You can only go back a certain amount of years as a time traveler in sci-fi if you're, black or what have you. And they address that in the show, and I give them props for that. Haven't seen the episode yet, mind you, but when I do, I will definitely hit you guys up with my thoughts on that one. So is that what you're talking about, Seven?
No, definitely. Usually when you do time travel, they don't address interracial dating. They don't address a lot of things that they addressed during that show. 2 women falling in love was definitely something that they never. I don't think they ever addressed that before.
No. The closest I've ever seen, was like in Doctor Who when it comes to both these matters, actually. In Doctor Who, they kind of gloss over it, and I was actually a little disappointed that they did that.
You've got mail.
But
All right, samples.
At one point there was I think it was with David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. He was with Martha Jones, who was black, and they go back like way to like Shakespearean times. And she asked at one point, it's like, yo, I'm not gonna get grabbed and enslaved, am I? He's just like, no, just walk around like you in the place, like I do. You'll be fine. And I'm kind of like, is that really your solution? Like, I don't know. But
No. I remember the other show that actually tackled this, surprisingly, Quantum Leap. Now, this might go over some people's heads, and
I remember that one.
Kind of showing my age, but
No, I remember that show. I
remember growing up, and I remember watching the whole thing, and they did cover that because he did jump into a person of color's body, and they had to tackle that issue on the show. I forget like what his purpose was for that day, but they covered it. They really did. So I think if they're taking this, it's a challenge, but it's one that they have to do. If we want our diverse cast, we have to have people who are willing to write for those kind of scenarios because that's kind of the reality within our fantasy. Like if we go back in time, I can't go back but so far because I'm a woman, regardless of my ethnicity. So I'll be someone's property in a hot second if I'm not careful.
It's something that I feel like in sci-fi it's a brilliant medium for addressing cultural issues. There's like the old line that says sci-fi is never about really the future, it's about us now. What it speaks about humanity as a whole. So like when it comes to issues like that, when it pertains to race, sexuality, stuff like that, time travel is, I feel like, the perfect vehicle to probe that and show, whether it be in retrospect or what happens after the fact, how silly the human race is when it comes to things that we consider unacceptable at one time versus another time. So
think about this though. If you, hypothetically speaking, if we did go back, I'm just saying, and we had the powers of some of the most powerful X-Men, what the heck are they gonna do to us, man?
Dude, no, you know what they will do? Me and a good friend of mine, we sat down and we were playing around with like some of the most extreme ideas for a time travel story. Like if you went back in time and assassinated your entire bloodline, you can't cease to exist because, you're already there. we also play with the idea of
counts for that actually.
yeah, it's like as a black dude, if we came back and just that jumping on that topic you just brought up, Charles, if you had all these powers, let's say you had like the powers of Superman, and you were a black dude and you went back in time, what could they really do to you? They could stick the military on you, sure, but ultimately, like, it's all hell's gonna break loose. Marvel actually followed a storyline with that with what's the character's name? Blue Marvel. And he was kind of like there was a strong buzz about him for a bit because he was written to be like the Superman of the Marvel universe. A lot of people consider Sentry, the character Sentry, to be that character, but because they wanted to switch things up and finally make a character of color who can stand on par with the Hulk, with the Sentry, they created this character, and he was in that particular scenario, where it's like the American government was like, dude, this guy could potentially be a problem, not only because he has powers, but because also he could rally every African-American person in America, and we can't stop him. What are we going to do, tell him no? Shoot weapons at him?
Yeah, if he had a few people, man, things would be different. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting. So
next comics might have to dive in and do a little time travel issues.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so, good segue, guys. Speaking of time travel, this does tie into what we were talking about before the show. The new trailer for Marvel Captain America Civil War came out this week. An intense trailer, and one that had the internet essentially imploding upon itself.
It broke.
It broke. And which is why I'm like, Seven, I'm surprised that you apparently haven't seen the trailer yet. You've been in whatever parallel. You watched the whole thing?
No, I saw it, and I just didn't. I wasn't impressed with the suit. I thought it was something else. I did see this, and I was disappointed.
Wow,
like some other people were.
So the big stinger at the end of that trailer was we got our first glimpse of the thrice rebooted now Spider-Man character. A lot of people, I don't want to call him divisive because most of the stuff that I've heard about him being revealed, how it was done, has been positive. But there are grievances, and I'm going to let you take it from there, Charles.
I think it's a costume. I think I like the red and blue, but these extra little accents of the stripes and everything, I don't know, man. That didn't sit right with me. The voice sounded good. His voice sounded pretty cool. It's just, if you're going to do the costume, just do it right. You don't have to add anything. Just go with the old red and blue, bring him in, and I think that'd be good. But, I mean, it looked a little flat, too. But besides that, I think it was all right. I just wasn't really on par with the costume.
Yeah. And my counter to that is the whole bringing up the time thing is the basis for this new Spider-Man outfit is the one that was drawn from, I want to say, the 60s television show, the cartoon. If you see, it's just a very plain Spartan web outfit on the top of the head. You had the black outline of the eyes with the white one. I do think it is a very cool feature that they added in that he can actually...
I like the animated eyes.
I think that's very cool. Yeah, I think that's very cool. Costume-wise, I want to say that like that's something that Stark added in the film that we're gonna find out later on that he like somehow modified Spider-Man suit so that he can do that.
I hope they just give him his suit, like the one that they had in the comics that Iron Man does give him. That is some hot stuff right there. So I hope that they don't like whiz out and they just give him the Iron Man suit.
So Geisha, as our resident cosplayer, what was your take on it? Charles wasn't impressed with the blue stripy crap that like made him want to start slapping people.
I mean, like everyone does have like their favorite version of the suit. When I saw it, I was kind of like, I just hope they don't go too Deadpool-ish with these eyes thing. But I see it is more of a telescopic lens, which does give into his geekiness as a photographer, and then so I could see.
Oh yeah, you're right. Good point.
Add in the web shooters too, so that's something we haven't seen. As well as I think they're like refills on the side. So they're getting more into like the logistics of the suit because people would ask that in the movies forever, like what happened to his web shooters? Like he's not really a spider type of thing. Like what is this? Traditionally he did not have web shooters biologically. He had that added on.
He had to make them. Yeah. They did that in the Amazing Spider-Man. They went back and he actually created the web shooters. Both I felt worked. I like the organic web shooters too, but yeah. My favorite Spider-Man outfit is easily going to be the Scarlet Spider one.
That one's
where he has
nice
the
one.
hoodie. That one I love. Just because it makes no sense.
Partial to the 2099. I like the skull-shaped spider. Like that's the horror geek in me. So
My
That was a
favorite
good one.
Spider-Man costume is the McFarlane.
That was a good one too.
Yeah, that was
That
that
was
was
good.
my favorite one right there.
And then my all-time favorite's gonna be the Venom, not the Venom, but the black suit Spider-Man one before he became Venom.
I know exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
That's just such a cool, simple like design. I love that one. And then the Spider-Man 2099 one was cool too. I remember that one from the video game, which I thought that one was pretty dope.
I
So,
just feel that it seemed too retro, if that makes any sense. Just because a lot of the other characters all have some sort of upgrade
mhm.
to fit the time. Sometimes it doesn't really work. Sometimes you stay with the basic. But I felt that because of everyone else had this upgrade, and then they showed me this boom Spider-Man, I felt pushed back in time in a way.
Well, you know why that is though, right, Seven? It's because this in effect is being nice. I
Yeah,
like
he's
that
showing a picture.
picture, yeah.
That's my
what's up.
favorite one. It got the black one in the back. This is going back because like a 1992 picture.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that looks like the night, like one of those old school
Yeah.
90s ones.
Mm.
So, jumping back on the topic, this was it's effectively his first outfit in this thrice rebooted iteration of Spider-Man 7. So it's gonna get
Okay.
upgraded.
Okay.
So
Probably
it's gonna be
probably during the film.
That's what I'm hoping.
possibly, but I think we're gonna see some major alterations happen when they do the solo Spider-Man movie, which is coming out 2017, 2018, something like that.
Now, from Civil War on, are they going to integrate the films just like they did with, other films?
I
What do you
think
You know, like as they go on, like for instance, a lot of times, a lot of superheroes, here's a film. Once we got into the Avengers, we saw this integration. We saw people doing cameos, other characters coming up, other villains popping up. Do you think we're gonna have, when they do the Spider-Man, is gonna be a smooth integration?
They're gonna
from this film?
have to, dude, because like when it came to Fox had this problem with Spider-Man when they did it the first two times around, where Spider-Man just kind of exists in this bubble with just him and his enemies.
Right.
And ultimately, by the time that you get to the Venom era of Spider-Man,
Mhm.
it's like, then what is he gonna do? Because those are all of his. Like, you can fend it off. Like if they got far enough, they probably would have did Carnage.
Mhm.
But after that, it's like, who does he have left? He has a very small rogues gallery, really, compared to the other Marvel characters.
Right.
So it's like they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to have him like paired up with other people who have access to other villains, and between Fox and Disney and Marvel, they're gonna have to exchange certain villains, like for characters that we haven't seen yet, mind you. I don't want to see Green Goblin again
Why not?
because they haven't done him right, really. Like
Yeah,
there
no,
were
they really haven't.
aspects of both that I dug, but for the most part, it's like
Yeah,
He's-
Morbius, Tombstone,
actually that would be
have
if they had Morbius, then they could bring in Black Cat. who I-
Sinister Six.
Mr. Six, yeah, which they were trying to do this last time around and it didn't happen.
Right.
So they got stuff they can fix.
Shut
Oh, that reminded me of the Spider-Man 2099 game. Charles, didn't you have some video game news for us that you were frothing to tell us?
Man, like I said, the Division, hands down, is the game to get. Because we were talking about Mass Effect and how massive, how great that game is. To me, this game is on par with the customization. As far as what you can do with the characters, the storyline is on point. If you have not played the Division, this is worth your $65. Heck, I would even say get the DLC, and I hate DLC.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a-
That's a marker right there because seeing Charles endorse a DLC,
For
that
once.
just doesn't happen.
we just cursed DLC like last week.
It just isn't done.
Yeah. I was,
Wow. All right.
when they expand the game, not so much they give you like the little cautions and skins for the guns and stuff, but when they expand the game out, because right now it just takes place in Manhattan, and then I believe you're going to have to go into the other boroughs, probably Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island. But for right now, I was highly impressed with the gameplay, the function. The servers seem to be running pretty good. Overall, I think it is the game of right now to get. You won't be disappointed.
You mentioned like New York. It takes place in New York. So it's like, what's the basic premise? It takes place now, and it's like the comic book DMZ, demilitarized zone.
Yeah, it's right now. Like I don't want to give it all away. Virus got cut loose. Tons of people died, and then the crime just everyone started taking little sections of the city. So they're trying to rebuild the city.
That sounds exactly like the comic DMZ. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just how they laid out the stories. I think, like I said,
Urban warfare, which is admittedly, if I were going to try a first-person shooter that has those Call of Duty-esque Tom Clancy,
person, actually, so you can actually see the character running.
Excellent. All right, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. Mass Effect totally got me used to that one. But it's like that would be the idea that I'd like.
And how they mapped out Manhattan is just wow. Like I'm running around, I'm like, there's the bus station, and there's the movie theater across the street. It's like, yeah, they pretty much nailed some of these points down to the T. And you can't use everything and call it by its name for legal reasons. But I mean, you recognize a lot of stuff in this city. I'm like, holy cow, this is crazy. Crazy.
As a New Yorker, you're just like, dude, oh my God, I totally walk by that place every day.
Yeah, it's a good game. So I would tell anyone listening, pick that up, and you won't be disappointed.
Nice. Geisha, wasn't there something that you wanted to share with us when it came to, not video game, but it was cosplay news or convention news?
Yeah, convention. I just came back actually today from working at the LGBT Expo that was held at the Jacob Javits Center this weekend. And it was like stroke of luck. There was an open call for me to come through, and I really enjoyed myself. I had no idea that there actually was like an LGBT community expo, but apparently this has been going on since 1993, and it's the largest and the longest running LGBT convention in the world, actually. It promotes diversity in business, education, politics, arts, health, technology, media, travel, and a lot of nonprofits. So it's a great place to like network. I met so many people from so many different companies and so many talented performers. It was a great environment. They had kids there and families. It was really nice to see. Yeah. And the second convention that's very similar to this, but more along the cosplay spectrum, is FlameCon. And they had their first showing last year, but now they got enough funding to actually have a 2-day convention that's going to be held at the Brooklyn Bridge Marriott Hotel, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's going to happen August 20th and 21st. So yeah, it's the Brooklyn Bridge Marriott. Last year, these guys, they had a grand ball afterwards. It was a lot of fun, and they welcome everybody. You don't have to be LGBTQIA to be part of it. And it's a really fun environment. It really reminds me of what cosplay used to be a good 10 years ago when everyone was just having fun. So I highly suggest to promote that convention. I will definitely be there.
Awesome.
And the focus is cosplay, correct? Or no? Just a regular...
The focus is cosplay is included. Like they have a cosplay contest because they want it to be like a mini NYCC, but without the heavy commercialism and more about community artists supporting your local people, kind of what the artist alley is supposed to be, but winds up not being an NYCC. So,
yeah, you got that right.
Like fabulous fashion, wonderful, friendly cosplayers, and the artist alley dedicated to the whole convention. Like that's what it is. So I think that's why the feeling is so like homegrown and very community based, because that's what it is. They want to promote their community and welcome everyone to it, to educate them and embrace them. So it's a beautiful environment.
Yeah, and I feel like that should be the case. It's like I always joke around and say that cons like Anime Expo, cons like, Comic-Con, WonderCon, it should be how like we operate just in general, just open, accepting of people. I always say that.
Yes.
But it's like this particular convention, it's weird. I guess I've just been ignorant to it this whole time. I've never really sat and differentiated or conceptualized the idea of there being a divide when it came to the, when it comes to one's sexuality versus them being at like a convention. It's just kind of like just one big thing where we all kind of just gather around. It doesn't matter whether you're gay, straight, transgender, or what have you. You're just there, and because you're there, and we have a common love of like a medium or like an art form, you're just like we're just this big community, like this family.
Yeah, I'm gonna play advocate on that. Only devil's advocate on that, right? that was the beauty of Comic-Con. And even though it's not perfect, I mean, we saw that a couple years ago with the women, not all women, but a few young ladies being sexually harassed. And
Right.
then they put the pressure on, and we saw a big difference the next year.
Mhm.
There was a big difference. People said, you know what, we're not going to stand for this. This is not going to happen in this environment. This is for everyone.
Yeah.
So my thing with and there's so many cons coming up. There's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many, like every other week there's a different con.
Exactly.
Does that water it down? Does that separate everybody? Does it kind of
No,
break?
I don't think so at all.
No? Why not?
I think the simple fact of the matter is that you have your big team players, which is like San Diego, Anime Expo, Katsucon, NYCC, MegaCon in Florida.
Okay.
But to have the smaller conventions gives a really good platform for like small groups of cosplayers or small organizations to kind of get represented and get their voice out there. Plus, also, it does give these other conventions a little bit of a run for their money, because if there's more out there for people to go see, then it makes it more important for them to actually care about how they treat the
There,
customer
yeah, exactly.
and present to the general audience. Because when you're like the one trick pony and the biggest fish in a small pond, then you
Yeah.
start to not have to care. Like
Yeah,
how
you don't care anymore.
I tell. So
Yeah.
this is better that way. I embrace the small cons coming out, because then NYCC has to actually think like, if we want the cosplayers, maybe we shouldn't grab all their props when they come inside the building. Small stuff like that makes a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you want to make sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like the graveyard of props I saw last year made me cry. I just saw hours of blood, sweat, and tears and money down the drain as I walked the path.
You serious? I thought
I am dead
I didn't know
serious.
that. I didn't know that. I thought you
They did.
stuff and you can go in and
No. They have this finagle rule, and it really is depending on the staff that's doing the security, honestly. Because I saw
Wow.
some people that came in with Harley hammers that were the standard gigantic size, and I saw a couple like Ruby cosplayers who were missing their scythe because something that is just as big, they were told you can't bring it in because the material it's being made out of is not con safe. And I'm like, Warbler is con safe. It's literally designed to be for shoes and common industrial things. This is a con safe material. So
There needs to be some allowances for that, because it's like, if you know that it's made out of materials that are specifically, that are considered safe or usable for situations like that.
Tissue
It's-
paper, foam.
Yeah, like tissue paper foam.
Yeah.
Like you see, like they have the people that make the I totally forgot what it's called, but it's like the 3D, 3-dimensional something. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Styrofoam.
printer.
The styrofoam, yeah, but it's like, how is this a potential weapon? Tell me.
Now,
I'll break my
the-
freaking weapon.
The
Or something.
irony to this is,
Yeah.
you'll take away my Harley hammer, but when I go into the Con 4 for the main exhibitor hall, I can buy a machine sharpened katana or an entire daisho set plus a batarang, all for the price of whatever I'm willing to pay, and come out with the Klingon weaponry as well. Like, I could kill someone with these products.
Right. And the replica of every movie that had a sword in it.
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I've
think
seen some
about
of
it.
the guns that they have at the cosplay
Right.
and ridiculous. I'm like, dude, they let you in with that thing. They're like, yeah, I couldn't walk down. I couldn't come to Comic Con with a gun like that. They would have me down, spread eagle on the ground.
Okay, like we laugh about that, but on a serious note though, there was a cosplayer in Utah that did get shot, and he was cosplaying Mugen from Samurai Champloo. He was literally going to a job interview at Panda House, and he had the fluffy fro and his attire, and the cop shot him in the back.
Wow.
So as a cosplayer of color, like now having a prop is on another level completely, because I would love to cosplay Black Widow, but I don't want to get shot because I have toy pistols.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
a true story. I did Nick Fury for Halloween, and I took some cosplay pictures. I had the gun. I put the gun in a bag and ran down to my ran down to my garage and took the pictures and put the gun back because it looked too realistic. Yeah, man, I'm not taking
Yeah,
that.
put me on you for that, dude. It's ridiculous, man. But like, it's funny. That actually references what I was gonna bring up later on before we ended the show.
Fake gun. Let me say fake gun. I don't want people to think I put a real gun. It was fake.
Well, yeah, we don't. Come on. Like,
Yeah, for the most part, like I don't think anyone's really going for that realistic. Like, come on.
yeah, a little quick history fact. So, do you guys know when it comes to the character Luke Cage in Marvel Comics, that I guess you could say inspiration for his character being created initially was because they wanted a character that symbolized the idea that a black man can go out in the streets and be impervious to bullets.
I'm completely behind that because the way the country is right now, oh my God.
It's oddly, it makes a lot of sense. He was a character that was created when you had just black men being just gunned down on the street on a regular basis, and this was primarily in New York.
What he said when? Like it's not you mean?
Yeah, you guys follow what I'm saying. It's not like it's gone away. It's still an issue. It's still salient in our society. But it's like it makes Luke Cage's character like almost timeless in a sense.
Yes.
To have this character who you know that he was made to be like the antithesis of what, I don't even know how to word it right now. But he was supposed to be the opposite of what we were seeing in life. We have a character who could be shot and still be okay.
Which would create fear amongst the overseers, the officers.
You could say that. You could say I'm having trouble kind of like putting the whole thing together in words, but all that said to say, I'm curious to see what elements they use, the historical elements they use for Luke Cage when his show comes out. And they actually have the premiere date for that's going to be September 30th. And
it's very, very true.
The premiere date for that is September 30th. They're keeping his origin story. So, it'll be pretty interesting to see what they keep in mind because he's going to be an inmate and then he's going to get experimented on. Then he gets his powers. So, interesting times ahead, guys. Anything else we have to say before we close it down today?
I would say next week, I think we can go in a little deeper. But also, I would like to talk about, since it's Women's Month, some of the female characters that have been overlooked that now, when they're scrambling to put out a whole bunch of characters, a lot of these female characters will see some light. There's a good opportunity now.
Very much.
Plenty to choose from. And there's going to have, there'll be opportunities for them to show up in future seasons of these other shows that we're watching because, as I learned this week, all the CW shows, Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, they've all been picked up for future seasons, which just means that there are more characters now from the DC camp that we'll be able to potentially see. And hopefully they'll bring back Dixon so Geisha cannot be mad anymore. She really doesn't look like we in the show several times now talking about how she's like
she should be.
We just want Dixon. That's all. That's it.
Oh man.
Perfect the way she is. Don't give me some whitewashed, watered down version of no.
I'm just saying. And on that note, as ECLECTICKA got all social and political, please enjoy us another weekend after this weekend and keep coming back. We enjoy you coming out. So thank you, Drew. And thank you, Geisha.
Thank you.
And Charles, always.
My pleasure.
I'm Seven, and you're watching ECLECTICKA, and we will see you next week.
Hello. Good night.